Welcome to Under the Wing with Andrew, where stories soar and conversations fly free. I'm your host, Andrew Wingard, inviting you to pull up a chair, kick back, and join me around the campfire for some warm exchanges. Each episode, we dive deep into life's journey with incredible guests from all walks of life, blending wisdom, lessons, and a little bit of laughter along the way. Whether you're here for inspiration, insight, or just a good old chat, you're in the right place. Gather around. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Under the Wing, the podcast where we exchange stories and ideas. I'm your host, Andrew Wingard, and I am thrilled to have you with me today. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. And I, for one, am happy to be out of 2024, man. It was a little rough for your boy, man, but Pastor Stephen Furtick always comes in with such a good word to help me reframe what 2024 looked like. And he made a comment. I don't know if it was his New Year's Eve message or I don't remember, but he made a statement, make sure you remember it right. But the actual sermon was something about momentum. And so I was like, man, that's a great point. There were some dark spots in 2024, but man, I had some really, really bright spots in 2024. And so I took some time, went back to 2024 to look at it, reframe the idea of what it was. And I'm excited to jump into 2025 with a new reframed look at 2024. And so I'm happy to get things going here. And so today's guest is drumroll, your boy. And I've only done this a couple times. And really, I just want to introduce the upcoming season of the podcast because I haven't podcasted in a while. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what we are going to do and some of the guests that will be on here in the next month or so. But before we get into that, let's take care of some business. This season of Under the Wing is proudly brought to you by Northbound Outfitters, your ultimate destination for adventure gear. Nestled in beautiful Grayling, Michigan, Northbound Outfitters has everything you need to explore the great outdoors. Whether you're looking for bikes, kayaks, canoes, cross-country skis, or top-quality clothing, Northbound Outfitters is here to make your adventure unforgettable. Searching for the perfect footwear, Northbound Outfitters offers a wide range of hiking, running, and casual styles. Plus, don't forget to fuel up at their on-site taco truck, open May through September. Surrounded by the stunning Osable and Manistee Rivers, just north of Higgins Lake and conveniently located on the way to Torch Lake in Traverse City, Northbound Outfitters is the perfect stop for gear and inspiration to fuel your next adventure. You can visit www.northboundoutfittersmi.com. Again, that's northboundoutfitters with an S, mi.com, or stop by on your next trip up north. Northbound Outfitters, where your adventure begins. All right, so why am I recording today and why am I jumping on the podcast? Well, this next season, we are going to dive into the JUCO student athlete experience. And, with everything that's changing in athletics, it feels like something's new every day. I was like, why not have a quick chat with some of my JUCO peers? And specifically, not just JUCO, but we're going to talk about the Delta College student athlete experience. And I'm going to touch base with some of my family, some of my older peers, big bros, and just talk about the experience as a student athlete and hopefully maybe just the student perspective in general. And so we're just going to jump into this fun and share some stories, share some insight, and hopefully we'll have some laughs, but hopefully it can be a little bit more informational for those who are thinking about the JUCO experience as this new landscape starts to change a little bit. And so hopefully it's useful. First thing we're going to touch into is that the transition from being a student athlete to an athletic director at Delta College. And so I think I have a unique perspective because I was a student athlete. The unique opportunity to be an athletic director there at Delta College as well. And so in between that, of course, that's 15, 16 years between those two things. I did, of course, work in athletics, but that transition was also different because most of my time in higher ed has been at the Division I level. So you can imagine transitioning from Division I to the community college world and how different that may look. It was extremely different, right? And so those are some of the transition things that we had to get through. But the idea of this discussion today will really be geared more towards the student athlete experience. And so one thing I did develop as an administrator was the empathy of those who are working in community colleges. And so I see it very, very differently now in terms of the amount of work these faculty and staff are putting in daily to ensure students like myself have a good experience so that way they can go a long way and be productive citizens in their families and in their communities. And so I'm appreciative of the work now that I've had a chance to sit behind the desk and see the work that they're doing. I mean, it's a ton that these professionals are doing for our students, and a lot for first gens like myself, who have not maneuvered through this environment, don't know how to maneuver through this environment, don't really have many resources to ask about maneuvering through this environment. So they have a lot on their plate, and I again, the empathy for them is heightened through that experience because as a student athlete, there were questions that I had like, why was that decision made, or why are my peers struggling with this? And if I'm being honest, the big reason I got into athletics in the first place was due to my experience at Delta College. And so I had an opportunity to see it from a different lens and reframe, kind of the ideas of why did that happen? And so I'm grateful for that experience. I'm grateful for the Delta College family for allowing me that opportunity to lead those athletes for that short period of time. Well, before we get too deep into the discussion, as many of you know, I'm huge on gratitude. And I'm just going to take a quick moment to talk about that experience. And so I'm grateful to Delta College for a lot of reasons. One, as a student, and then the other, for bringing me back and allowing me time to lead that athletic department. But from the student perspective, I think there were only three places you could potentially find me if I was not in class. The TLC and Writing Center, so that's the Teaching and Learning Center, which is in the library, and then the Writing Center, um, the gym, in the weight room, right? And so when I got to Delta College, I had zero confidence in any area of my life. Academically, athletically, as a man, I had nothing going for me at that point in time. And so that's why I say I'm extremely grateful for Delta because what they gave me, I can never repay them for what they were able to deliver to me to help me move forward with my life. And so the TLC, and many of you probably, I mean, some of you have heard this story, is I was just not a great student, not a bad person, not a bad kid. I just was a terrible student. Um, Barely graduated high school. I think I took like 3 or 4 independent study courses my senior year just so I could graduate. Failed my freshman year. The TLC was so helpful in helping me develop my identity as a student, helping me understand how to study, something that I never did, understanding how to take tests, understand how to write effectively. I'm still not a great writer, but the idea of them, the patience that they had. Right now, as a student athlete, I'm forced to do my hours right in the learning center. But there were times when I was in there all the time. Again, from 8 to whenever we got out of practice, I was there in the morning all the way up until night. And so these were the things that I was working on. So the TLC was extremely helpful for me during that time. Coach Smith, who was my basketball coach, I can't thank him enough because he was there at the right time. And he was so important to someone like me because he was a JUCO product. He signed with a Division II school, which is what I ended up signing with a Division II school at that point in time. So he was so helpful for me. Honestly, I don't even know if I even stepped foot in my advisor's office when I when I was at Delta College because he was my advisor. He knew the goals, he knew the plan, he gave me the map, and I did not go off the road trying to do things differently. He gave that map to me, and I literally followed it to the T. I left Delta College with my Associates of Arts degree, passed the clearinghouse, and all the things that you need to do with the NCAA to kind of get cleared to be able to compete at the next level. And so I can't thank Coach Smith enough for his confidence and his patience with me, and really just his willingness to be that advisor that I just didn't have or know that I needed. And I think it's extremely important when you look at the coaches that are leading these young people, especially at the NJCAA level, because a lot of them are like me, and that may change too, right, with the rules of JUCO athletics. But it's not last chance you anymore potentially, right? It's kind of turning into almost like a prep school for the most part if these rules do change. But it was last chance you for me. And so having someone like Coach Smith who knew how to talk the language, knew how to walk, it was just extremely helpful for me to have him there. And, having coaches who have lived that college experience, who specifically have lived maybe the JUCO experience and have gone on to play competitively at the next level, was something that I don't estimate, or I guess I appreciate more now that I am going beyond it. And then the next person that I am also going to shout out, which is no surprise, is my dear friend Shelly, who was the athletic trainer as well as our strength and conditioning coach. And I joke around sometimes, like, man, I feel like she tried to make me into a football player because I was completely different. And when you look at those three areas, as a man, as a student, and as a student athlete, when I say I had no confidence, those three individuals at Delta College, and I can't miss the faculty and staff as well. I should say the faculty. Faculty were amazing there at Delta College, and they are still amazing. They're still doing great work as they're continually recognized in our country. And so those three specifically for me helped develop me into the person, actually the man I am today. And so, Shelly and Coach Smith and the TLC, the Writing Center, the library staff, they were so influential in developing me. It's hard not to give them their flowers whenever, you have a conversation about the college experience or the community college or Delta College. And so I'm just grateful that they were able to work with me, build up that confidence. And I think, when I look at the idea of what confidence is and Andrew, what did they build up in you? I think about the idea of, this is 15, 16 years ago, we were the Delta College pioneers, right? And so I think the idea of the pioneer mindset, what is that? How did that develop in you during your time? I think about my attitude, how that changed, my outlook on life, the ability to forward think, being innovative, the courage to explore the unknown, right? These are all areas that Delta College helped me maneuver during my time. I didn't know how to be a student. I really didn't know how to be a student athlete for the most part. I did have a little bit of help going to prep school before I got to Delta College, but these are all things that they were helping me understand how to maneuver new paths, approaching life and work with curiosity, determination, willingness to be uncomfortable for a season, seeing opportunities and setbacks of failure, developing resilience, right? I microfractured my ankle my freshman year. And I had to go do PT. Shelly was with me all the time, getting me ready, like seeing opportunities through that failure, still coming back stronger, faster, better in some areas, being an athlete, embracing failure, all things that I had to figure out as a student and a student athlete during my time at Delta College. And, I think the most important area that I fell in love with at Delta was the process. And the dreams became a reality, right? I saw the process. I was able to sign with a Division II school. Shout out to Maryville University. Shout out to St. Louis. I, I saw where I wanted to go destination wise, and I saw that the process. I should say, I saw the destination, and Delta College helped me to understand that this is a process, and I need you to enjoy this. All right. So some of those early months and months of going to class and trying to study and figuring out how to do that, and going to the TLC and understanding how to be a college athlete, those weren't easy times for someone like me. And so those are the things that were developed during my time at Delta, and I can't thank them enough for the patience and what they were able to help me accomplish there. And so I can say that both academically and athletically, I was better when I left Delta College, and those that confidence was developed. And long story short, we a couple degrees later, and also being accepted into a doctorate program, which I didn't end up doing, of course, due to COVID. But all those things started at Delta College. And so I have to give them their flowers. And, Dr. Gavin and Shelley, who's now, of course, the VP, Delta College staff, they're doing some great things. And, I will always stand behind them as long as they're kind of leading the ship over there. And I think they're continue to move forward and do great things for those students. And so what led me to the JUCO arena? Well, again, I was a terrible kid. There was no college options for me. And so you think about Saginaw basketball, I was not a good basketball player coming up. And so it wasn't it wasn't today where there's an AU team on every block. It was, I think there might have been like three teams that someone from our region could play or from our city could play. You had the Mustangs, you had the Hurricanes, and the Roadrunners, I believe. I'm be honest, I don't know because I wasn't involved, right? And so I wasn't good enough to play on any of those teams. So my guys, my friends were out playing across the country, playing against top basketball. I was kind of more hanging out, riding bikes over on Fulton, my grandma's house, going to M&D, buying lemon heads and heading over to Magic Kitchen, getting a tip box. You know what I mean? So I wasn't doing any of that. And so the time that I actually did get to participate at the AAU level was going into my senior year of high school. And so shout out to my guy, Dougie Fresh, who started the Central Michigan All-Stars. And so that was the first opportunity. Also, shout out to the Beale City boys. Shout out to my homie, Matt, man, who's no longer with us as well. Shout out to the family. But that was the first time that I actually had an experience to play summer basketball. And it was the moment that led me to I think I can potentially do this. Like I can probably do this. And I remember getting my first letter was from Mary Grove in Detroit. And so I went on a visit and it was, I'm not gonna say what it was, but I was like, okay, this might we might can make something out of this. And so everything changed, man. And Doug opened my eyes to a lot. And so that's when the journey really actually began. And I go down to prep school in Wilson, North Carolina. Shout out to Chris Prep. Shout out to Barton. I go down there and I realized real fast that I am not a Division I student athlete. And so we might have had like 8 to 10 guys going D1 maybe, and some other guys going D2. Then we had guys go to Nevada, Oklahoma, Southern Miss, Liberty, BMI, all kinds of places, man. So I found out real fast that I wasn't a prospect. And I also found out real fast, like, I don't love basketball. But what I did take from that experience is these guys are so good. And there were times I didn't even see the floor. And I think at that moment I realized I would rather be on a team that wins and not play than be on a team that sucks and play a lot. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. I can't. I think I probably only had one really losing team my entire life, and that was my junior year of high school. That was awful. That team was awful. And I hated being a part of that team. But I would much rather be a part of a team that's winning. And I might not play that much. And here's why. Everything that those guys did who were going to play at the next level, I did what they did daily. Right. I followed them wherever they went. I followed them wherever they went. I trained wherever they trained. They stayed up to practice. I stayed up to practice. They went, they played king of the court. I played king of the court. I wasn't that good. But what it did was it made me better. And so I was better when I left my experience at Careers Prep. And so I remember Coach P calls me into his office one day. He's like, Ron, what do you want from this experience? He's like, well, I was like, well, first off, I just want to become a better basketball player. And two, I want a scholarship. And so he's like, well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't help you. And so he was like, there's nothing you have one option and that's it. And you have to go JUCO. And so it was such a great conversation because up until that point, I really had no I didn't know where I was going. I just was kind of trying to fill it out. Like, where can I go? Where can I take this? And so once I had a map, okay, all right. So I went to some JUCOs down there. Went to Clinton in South Carolina, got destroyed. And so with some other JUCOs. And then I ended up back home at Delta College, and shout out to Coach Smith who was able to bring me on. But that's how I ended up getting to the JUCO world. Is again, last chance you, right? This your last chance, homie. If you if you don't get this right, I don't know where you're gonna be. And so again, as this new landscape changes a little bit, the JUCO environment may get really competitive. And I'm only speaking specifically for basketball. I can't speak for all others. But we could see a different look for JUCO athletics, which is why I wanted to have this quick, hopefully quick conversation to talk about my experience. And so the the myths, I'm actually going to touch base on. Actually, I'll take that back. Yeah, I'll address a few myths about the community college experience and the JUCO student athlete experience. The first being a lesser experience. Yes, it is a lesser experience from someone who has worked at places like Texas Tech and Vanderbilt and Tulane. Yes, it's a very different experience. It's levels to this, right? Um, but I say that to say it's not a lesser experience in terms of the experience as a holistic experience, right? I love my time. I love my brothers. I love my sisters who played soccer and volleyball and women's basketball. I love my brothers and sisters who were just students because we were in this together. And I don't take that experience for granted. And that we made some great friends. We competed hard, and it just was an all around good time just being at Delta now. It was very different being back as an administrator. Of course, this is post COVID, but the hallways looked very different. And I was like, man, this is just a different experience than when I was here because we were there. I felt like we were there all the time, except for when we were sleeping. And it was just a unique experience, and I enjoyed every bit of it. So, is it a lesser experience in the sense of bells and whistles? Yes, absolutely. That's why you work hard. You want the bells and whistles, put in some work. In regards to the experience in itself, the academic support is great. The faculty and staff are amazing. They understand the student body there who are coming to community colleges. They're helpful. Now, I'm not going to say that's a general statement, right? Some are not so helpful in everything that we do. We can't expect a perfect experience. If someone said that they had a perfect experience, I would call it bluff. Um, but the experience itself was great, fantastic. The competition at the JUCO level, and like I said, this could all be changing over the next 2 to 3 years. And it was competitive when I played basketball, right? And so you think about our conference at that point in time. I think we maybe had like 5 to 6 teams ranked in the top 25 in our division just from our conference. And so we were competing against D1, D2 guys every night. Some nights we were getting punched in the mouth. Other nights we were punching in the mouth, right? We had to play against the Moss, the St. Clairs, the Oaklands, the Glen Oaks. And so we used to make fun of my boy Mario. Shout out to Mario, man. We would call Mott NBA Jam because they just had some crazy freaks over there. But and I don't even think they even made the national tournament that year. I think they ended up getting upset by somebody. So it's like you're not every day was a battle there in our in terms of competition every day. And so it's not lesser. And honestly, if these rules change, it's only going to get a little bit deeper. And so I tell our student athletes all the time, when I was there as an administrator, putting up 20 and 15 isn't enough anymore because you got the portal, you got these kids who already were at the NCAA level. And so you're not competing against other JUCO kids anymore and maybe high school. Like you're competing against NCAA certified guys now. So that 2015 might not look that great. So we got to figure out something else to make you more appealing in the sense because they've already have a track record of being there at that level. They left and now they're trying to get back. So it's harder. It's going to be a little bit harder for some of those guys like myself who were there. Thankfully, I didn't have to worry about that. But it's going to be a little bit harder, a little more challenging. And I don't think it's a negative. I just think you strap up the boots, right, and figure it out. So competition wise, I think it's only going to get better. And you make the experience what it is, right? And if you're gonna go through and lollygag and not balls to the wall and do it, then that's on you. But you kind of have to make the experience yourself and do what you can. The last one, I think, is the most important one to me, is the idea. And if you follow student athletes at any level, the idea of like the general studies / liberal arts degree. And student athletes always take these courses because they're easier, and there may be some validity to that. But for the most part, I hate to see students speak of that degree in a sense to where they don't have pride in it. Right? I left Delta College with that associate arts degree. I wear that badge on my chest. Now I'm a different kind of student because, like I said, I barely graduated high school, so that degree means everything to me because it's one of those. It's that check mark, right? That success. I was able to accomplish that. And so, but what I want is, I really want to speak on that idea of the liberal arts. I should say, I want to defend the general studies and the liberal arts degree because there's data now that shows that those degrees are extremely helpful. And I've had conversations with business leaders who are actually recruiting students from the arts. It goes back. I think I'm a believer. I shouldn't say I think. I'm a believer in the 1090 rule, right? 10% of the skills can be trained. 90% of those skills are really surrounded by people skills, soft skills. Um, those are the things that you're learning in the liberal arts area: critical thinking, collaboration, um, finding information and deciphering it, and making an informed decision. Right. I think those skills. Now, again, I work in higher education, so I really believe in the 1090 rule, and hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me in the butt. But the 10% of those skills can be trained if you're willing to be trained. Those that 90% of those skills, the soft skills and the people skills, those are things that students are developing in those general studies and the liberal arts degrees. And I'll read a few statements just to kind of also defend the idea of the liberal arts education. This one's from the Yale report. Explained the essence of the liberal arts education was not to teach that which is peculiar to any one of professions, but to lay the foundation which is common to them all. The two great points to be gained in intellectual culture are the discipline and the furniture of the mind, expanding its powers and storing it with knowledge. The former of these is perhaps the more important of the two. A commanding object, therefore, collegiate courses should be to call into daily and vigorous exercise the faculties of the student. Those branches of study should be prescribed, and those modes of instruction adopted which are best calculated to teach the art of fixing the attention, directing the train of thought, analyzing the subject proposed for investigation, following with accurate discrimination the course of argument, balancing nicely the evidence presented to the judgment, awakening, elevating, and controlling the imagination, arranging with skill the treasures with which memory gathers, rousing and guiding the powers of genius. And then this one comes from Thomas Cech, who was a Nobel Prize winning chemist. He actually made it a sports analogy. And his thoughts were let's go back here. Just as athletes do exercises unrelated to their own sport, so students should study fields outside their academic area of focus. Cross-training may exercise key muscle groups more effectively than spending the same amount of time working out in the sport of interest. Such academic cross-training develops a student's ability to collect and organize facts and opinions, to analyze them and weigh their value, and to articulate an argument, and it may develop these skills more effectively than writing yet another lab report. The next one is from former Lockheed Martin CEO. So what does business need from our educational system? One answer is that it needs more employees who excel in science and engineering. But that is only the beginning. One cannot live by equations alone. The need is increasing for workers with greater foreign language skills and an expanded knowledge of economics, history, and geography. And who wants a technology-driven economy if those who drive it are not grounded in such fields as ethics? The last one comes from former CEO of Seagram Company. Get a liberal arts degree. In my experience, a liberal arts degree is the most important factor in forming individuals into interesting and interested people who can determine their own paths through the future. For all of the decisions, young business leaders will be asked to make based on facts and figures, needs and wants, numbers and speculation. All of those choices will require one common skill: how to evaluate raw information, be it from people or a spreadsheet, and make reasoned and critical decisions. So I think those are my 3 myths, with the last one being the most important to me. But for our students, especially the students who are in the community college world right now, if you don't know what field you're interested in, that general studies and the liberal arts, the associate arts is fine. And I don't think you should feel any type of way or I only have this. I think you wear that with pride. And so you go to your next stop and you maybe you do want to be an engineer, or maybe you do want to go into the business field, maybe finance or something. It's that cross training, I think, is also very important. It's skills that you can take with you wherever you go. And so as we wrap up this session, I think what I'll do, if I have one piece of advice for future JUCO students, I think I'll tell this through a quick story. And so I talked a lot about Shelly and how she was able to help me build confidence, and really, honestly, as a man, for the most part, there's the individual who I play with who I also have to give their flowers to as well. His name is Dorico, aka Rico. I'm actually going to have him hopefully on the show at some point to talk about his journey. And I can't even, I mean, I'm so proud of this dude, man. And so he's from Grand Rapids. I'm so proud of him, man. He came to Saginaw and really was a huge part of my life and a huge part of my development as a young man at that time. And so I have to give him his flowers as well. But I'll tell a quick story and and it hopefully lead to the advice that I have for um, future students who are looking at the JUCO route. But so I think it might have been our first day at orientation. And so you kind of have to know Rico to understand the story. So it's kind of an inside story. But we're he's like 5'9", he's real stocky. And so we are at orientation and somehow we get on the topic about working out. And so he's huge in the fitness. And so he has his Grand Rapids accent, so it's proper. And so he's like, yeah, I do biceps, triceps, cable flies. And so we are in tears. And I'm like, man, this dude is crazy. But I tell that story because Rico, again, he's like 5'9". I might be generous on that side. And so super stocky, kind of a bully in the sense. He comes to Delta College a workhorse. He's a workhorse. He's a better basketball player than me. He wants it more than me. And I just been like, all right, I got to figure out how to. I need some of that energy, what he got. I need whatever he has. I need to put that into me. And so I hung out with Rico a lot, and I watched what he did. I worked out with him a lot. We trained a lot, and I say this having having peers like Rico around you makes it easy to work hard because that's I think he felt he had to work harder than everybody else because he was shorter than everybody else. And so his intensity as a basketball player, defensively, offensively, like I wanted pieces of that. I wanted some of his aggression. And so I stayed with him. I followed him and we worked out together. And so a lot of I give credit for Shelly for helping develop me, but I also have to give credit to Rico because I had someone who also was already doing that. And so it made it easy to follow him because I wanted to do that. I wanted to be bigger, faster, stronger. And so having somebody like Rico around made it easy to want to work hard. And so my advice for any student that might be possibly headed to the JUCO route is if you're to find someone that's better than you, and if you really want to find out how to achieve your goals, find that person. And what are they doing? Right? How can you pick up on that? Now, if you're the best player on your team, maybe you go to the baseball team. What are they doing? What's the best player on the baseball team doing? Right? And find ways to pick up on them and develop yourself and get better. And hopefully it does work out in a way that it worked out for me. I can't promise that it will. Thankfully, I had a good crew around me to get me to where I dreamed of being. But, find that individual who's going to make you better. It's okay to not be the best person, I believe, especially at that level. And I think it's going to be even easier for some of those JUCO sports. And I'm speaking specifically for basketball. If you're going to get some of these guys who are D1, D2 prospects, and they're going to come to your JUCO world, you would be very silly not to pick their brain, not to watch what they do, not to train with them. Put aside your pride and really do the work with them. And I had to do that myself. Again, I've never been. I say this with all honesty. I have never ever in my life been the best basketball player in my life. And I know some of you might be like, "That's you're just trying to be humble." No, I have not. I'm not being humble. That's just the fact. I've never been the best basketball player on any team, but I've always done what I needed to do to help the team. But it took me later on in life to figure out, yeah, I'm not the best player, but that doesn't mean I can't be with them and elevate myself to be the better version of myself. Right. So that would be my advice to any student athletes that are going in there. And hopefully, when we start having these conversations with some of my family and those peers from Delta College, they'll have some advice for you as well. And I'm looking forward to the conversations that we will be having with some of those individuals. And hopefully you get some laughs, we'll have some fun, we'll tell some stories, and then hopefully it's educational as well for some students who are getting ready to find their way to the community college world. But again, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm excited for this next season of Under the Wing, as we're going to have some JUCO products on this show. Thank you, and look forward to talking to you all soon.
I am so glad you could join us for another episode of Under the Wing. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. I hope you found some value or joy in this episode. If you did, share the love by passing this episode along to a friend. And hey, if you know someone who would make a great guest, send their name my way. Until next time, friends, keep flying high and spreading love wherever you go. See you soon.